My Hero Academia Chapter 258, Companions. So this was like the hypest chapter in a while, at least in my opinion. I mean, we've had good chapters, of course, but I've like audibly gasped at this chapter multiple times. I haven't been this hyped for the story in a while, honestly, and that's because we are on the precipice of greatness in this one. This is essentially like the series hitting its apex. It's already hit its stride for sure, but now we are coming to a fever pitch. And this is what every battle manga series essentially works for in the end. What they certainly hope they can get, not many pull it off, not even, many get to this point, and that is a war arc, but a meaningful war arc that really encompasses the entire series, because we have all of the major storylines converging into one point in this arc, and we also have all of the major characters, including like new supplementary ones, all coming together, just I assume all battling it out for, I don't know, at least 20 chapters, depending on how much Horikoshi wants to extend this. But this is really a great time to be a My Hero fan, especially if you are following the manga. I'm sure that this is going to be incredible, considering that Horikoshi really draws inspiration from multiple different IPs and whatnot, mainly Star Wars and the other battle manga shonens that have been popular in the past few decades. I'm assuming that he's taking a page out of their book, especially Oda's book, because Oda is like the master of the war arcs, and then, second to him is probably Kishimoto. So I'm assuming that it's going to be an amalgamation of both the Fourth Ninja War and the Paramount War from One Piece. Like, that's what we've got here, because we see it literally being set up here. I mean, we've been teased about it up until now, but now we certainly see, like, the two sides, the two factions coming together. Now, we knew that it was going to be the villains, for sure, waging this war, and we saw them earlier on in this chapter, but then towards the end, when we're coming to this chapter, we see that the heroes are definitely together. All of them. We've got all of the Billboard Top 10, all of the teachers, and all of like the miscellaneous, like non-ranked ones, and then we even have all the students geared up. Now, I don't know if the war is going to happen in the next chapter, but it is certainly going to happen. This is, like I said, everything that we've been working for up until this point. It's truly going to be incredible, but let's get into this chapter. So Horikoshi is quickly briefing us on the main forces of the Paranormal Liberation Front, and we're seeing that each individual lieutenant, or as I like to call them, Yonko commanders, because I kind of like see Shigaraki as like the Yonko, or even like the Pirate King of this verse at this point, but each of his lieutenants, which are like, the main members of the League of Villains, as well as the main members of the Liberation Army, they have underlings to them, which is called like individual units, and they all have like their own code names. Like there's the Tactical Force, the Raid Regiment, the Intelligence Division, and the Support Unit, which I think is pretty cool. And they all have their own individual members to them. And there's a lot of new characters here. We're not getting names on any of them yet, but they all look pretty interesting. And according to what is said here, they excel that of heroes. And I really did laugh at when Horikoshi points out that, these guys didn't participate in the Deka City battle because they had to take care of positions. So it's like, I understand. Writing battle manga is difficult, and like you need to kind of fill in some plot holes here and there, but I appreciate that Horikoshi at least did some patchwork here, because it really does raise the question of like, okay, so if the Liberation Army had all these powerful dudes which are comparable to heroes, if not greater, where the hell were they in Deka City? But no, that just clears up. They were taking care of their position, so that's, and also it's like, if they were there, then it's very likely that things wouldn't have gone as well as they did for the League of Villains. I mean, I'm sure if Shigaraki still did blossom his ability, he probably still could have soloed all of them, because his DK quirk was just too broken at the end of that arc. And then Hawks pretty much sums up what Reed Destro and Shigaraki's ultimate plan is, and that is just to destroy everything via attacking the major cities all across the nation. I assume they're just talking about Japan, of course, and then making them essentially lawless, and then taking over and rebuilding them up from there, where they're essentially just going to be in control of everything. and basically destroying everything that All Might has worked so hard for. And this also brings back parallels to Star Wars, because that's essentially what happens. Like, the Jedi was able to establish the Republic for a very long time. I think like 1,000 years or something like that. I'm not too keen on the Star Wars info. But then, of course, it was eventually toppled by Palpatine, and then he brought forth the Empire. So I assume that that's what's going to happen here. And also, if you look at the Sith lineage, it's just like all for one, and the Jedi is like one for all. Then we get into the relationship that has been blooming between Hawks and Twice, which is pretty interesting because it's not as clear-cut as you would think. Now, Hawks does see Twice as somewhat of a good guy. As we, the readers, have seen, throughout his development, throughout the series, he's not as unredeemable as the rest of the villains. I mean, not necessarily are they even unredeemable at this point, but I would say that he is the least unredeemable at this point, I'll say. He seemed as like the most good-hearted person, as Hawks says in this chapter, but he still doesn't completely trust Hawks, because if you'll notice, he tells Hawks that Shigaraki has been powering up in the mountains of Kyoto, and that's not true, because we found out that obviously he's been in the hospital with Yujiko, and that was revealed by Shirakumo trying to break out of Kurogiri, and that was relayed to Hawks, and he confirmed it. I think it was like chapter 255, where he was like, yeah, all right, it's all falling into place, and then he relayed the information to whatever he needed to. Basically, everyone came together and realized that, like, okay, the hospital is the place to be. So I don't necessarily think that they're falling for the mountains in Kyoto thing. So either Twice purposely told Hawks this because he's suspicious of him, meaning that the entire Paranormal Liberation Front is suspicious of Hawks, and they're like think that he's basically being a triple crosser here, or they purposely fed misinformation to Twice because they knew that they would feed it. Know that he would feed it to Hawks because they were just initially suspicious of him. So it's basically one or the other, but in the end, I think it's maybe just Twice just isn't completely sure of Hawks' allegiance. But let's get into Hawks theorizing the possibility of Twice's power. Now, either Twice has proven that he can do this, or he's just guessing, because we see that he's like, you went from some major villain to the guy that I have to watch out for the most, because he's overcome his trauma in the My Villain Academia arc, and he was able to duplicate himself, and then the duplicates were able to replicate other people, and we see that he's freaking replicating high-end Nomus. So this is pretty much as broken as it gets, because we saw that just one high-end Nomu / Hood pushed Endeavor to like ultra-high difficulty, even with the assistance of Hawks. So you can imagine how the other, just let alone top 10 heroes, would have to do against one of these things, and Twice can make, like, I don't know, as many as he wants, I guess. I mean, we see him like using at least 4 or 5 here, so it's just overkill at this point. There's really no way that the heroes are going to win, and I think Horikoshi is definitely setting it up for us to lose hope and just basically accept that the villains are going to win in this war. I would be very surprised if they don't win, but then we see Hawks say that Twice is a very kind-hearted person, so this might be foreshadowing that there might be a change of heart from Twice. Maybe he turns face or something and tries to help the heroes or something. It seems unlikely at this point because he is obviously completely dedicated to the League. Mainly like Shigaraki and Toga. They are like a big family right now. So for him in order to turn face, he would need a big catalyst for that. Like maybe Shigaraki just becomes so insanely evil once he goes into like his hybrid Nomu form that Twice is just like, yeah, I'm not down with this anymore. This isn't the society I wanted to live in. And then he goes over to the hero side, and then he starts duplicating them, and then maybe that's where they start having an uprising or something. But let's get into the heroes, because we see them all congregated together. We see their entire force, and it is awesome, but just like I said earlier, it is nothing compared to what the Paranormal Liberation Front has at this point, especially once it was revealed that Twice can freaking replicate the high-end Nomus, the other high-end Nomus that we haven't even seen the full potential of the rest of them yet. But we see that they're basically like convincing the students that they're going on an internship, but we know that that is not the truth. They plan this all up to coincide with the date that Hawks gave to Endeavor. This has all been, methodically set up because the heroes aren't like out of the loop here. They know what's coming. They know that they have to evacuate the residents of the city because this is where the battle's going to take place. Like, they're just going to use this entire city as a war zone, I guess, but they're getting rid of everybody so that there's no collateral damage, at least with human casualties and whatnot. So we have everyone together, all of the students, and when we see all of the students as well, we see like Nedry's there, and then we see some others that we haven't been briefed on yet. So I assume that these are second and third years. So all of UA is here, I assume. So we've got all of UA and all of the pro heroes. and still this isn't enough, but it's certainly something. And then we also have to remember that Aries' quirk was brought up 2 chapters ago, so her quirk is going to have something to do with probably the initial fallout of this arc. So look out for that, but I'm not sure if this war is going to start in the next chapter, but it is going to start very soon, and I just can't wait to see what happens. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you liked the video, guys, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you access to a weekly Q&A. If you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. And